Our next presenter comes from Southeast Polk Junior High School, and she teaches 7th grade Eastern Civilization. Brianna Leinon.
Okay, so like you said, I am Brianna Leinon, and I'm going to be talking about technology in an inquiry-based classroom. To give you a little information about me, I do teach 7th graders, and I have the attention span of a 7th grader. So if I move too quickly, please let me know, because I have a really bad habit of doing that. This is my 4th year at Southeast Polk Junior High. It's also just my 4th year teaching. So kind of a newbie to everything still, but getting a hang of it. At any point, if you want to see what I'm doing in my classroom, Twitter, Instagram, you can see pictures of my life-size mummy that's in my room named Martin. He's a big hit. But today I want to address how to start tackling these inquiry standards. By no means am I an expert on this since they just came out, but it is something that I've felt really passionate about and wanted to tackle because I'm really excited about this. And what I've seen kids do with it so far has been absolutely incredible. So the first thing that I want to show you guys is this is how my brain works. It is an organized mess. So a couple things that I'm going to be talking about today are some differentiated ways to use sources and materials, how to develop claims or pieces where you can have students developing claims, and ways to get them questioning, because as much as they love to ask questions like, where's the Kleenex, or why is the sky blue, or where do babies come from, trying to get them to focus is a little bit more difficult. So to start off, I want to discuss how to inspire these questions. One of my favorite apps that I use is Padlet. So if you guys could load this and click on the Padlet link, you will come up with a corkboard that looks just like this. Okay. So the really great thing about Padlet is it's super easy to get on. You just have to click the link and you can make it accessible for any student at any time. The basic way to add onto this is in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a little plus symbol. As soon as you do that, a sticky note appears. Now, I've had students do it where they put the title as the topic that we're discussing. I've had them put it as their name if I want to be able to track who's doing what. Or I've simply had them leave it completely blank and just ignore it. So what I want you guys to do is go in the bottom right-hand corner and add your thoughts. What does inquiry mean to you? You're starting to tackle these things. What are you thinking about so far? Okay, so big thing that I'm seeing is questioning, which is great. One that particularly caught my mind here was someone put asking great questions and with a question mark. I love that because I've asked my students what inquiry is once we've talked about it a little bit, and they're like, asking really good questions. It's like, yeah, but what does that mean to have really good questions? And I always tell them it needs to be a question that you can actually explore, not something that you're going to be like, oh, yep, here's the answer right away. Now, beauty of all of this, Padlet has a setting that you can have it monitor for vulgar language. So, yeah, teaching secondary, it's a great thing. So you can turn that on, and if they put anything, it won't allow them to post it, or it'll black it out for them. So you never have to worry about it popping up. You also can delete anyone's at any time, and it'll just be gone. You don't even have to address it if you don't want to. Now, I like this because it's easy for students to see what everyone else is thinking really quick, but it also has that anonymity. Yeah, that's how you're going to say it. And they don't have to point and laugh and be like, oh, you're dumb because you asked this question. Or, hey, that's a really great question. I wonder that too. So I'm a really big fan of Padlet. Actually just used it the other day. And it's something super easy they can use. Also, it's a really great piece that you can have them add to at any point and always come back to because it will save the answers. If you look here, these are a couple of the ones I've done. So we talk about Gandhi and Indian independence. This one was major overload. I have 6 class periods. I teach the same thing all day long. Learned very quickly. It's better to just make copies for each class period and give them a different link so that it can be more organized. Otherwise, they all end up on top of each other, and they're really hard to sort through. Up on top here is another way. Rather than having the Post-its just randomly pop up, you can do it where you can do multiple questions, and then they click the little plus sign on the bottom, and they can add their answer there, so you can scroll a lot easier if you have multiple students working on this. Questions at all on Padlet before I go forward? Okay. Next, you do not need technology for this. I just think it makes it a lot easier. One of my favorite games to play with my 7th graders is what I call Picture This. And what happens is I pose a question to them. Here's our big topic. For this one, it was West Africa. What caused them to fall? What caused the civilization to decline? So I choose a picture, and I create 4 different views of it. I typically just have students write this down on a small piece of paper so that they can keep thinking things through as we move. So the first image I always give is super zoomed in. Sometimes it's pixelated, sometimes it's super clear. Either way, it works. Because I have students write down, okay, what questions could I ask to narrow down what this is? I say it has to be yes or no questions. It can't be anything more in depth than that, like, oh, well, what is it? That's what we're trying to figure out, guys. I don't want you to ask that. So the first one, it's going to be a wide range. Is it a person? Is it an animal? Is it a place? Once we've exhausted all questions and they're out of them, I'll give them the next view. Zoom out a little bit and keep going until you get to the third one. Third one's where they really start to get an idea. Like, I believe at one point they said this was a bridge. In back we see some water, we see some rocks. Okay, maybe we're going to a beach. And then you kind of have to rein them in and be like, well, is a beach going to be the downfall of a civilization? Normally I think beach, I think, hey, this is somewhere nice to relax. Till I get to the last one. Now, this picture in particular did not give the answer to that question. They had to go explore to figure out what could this picture mean. It led them to slavery. You have people walking through the final doorway and getting on those ships to head to the Americas and Europe. So it just started to lead them to that point that they could come up with questions. What does the ship mean? What is this doorway leading away from? And that's what got them to really start moving into, okay, this is what we need to explore, rather than me just being like, here's what we're exploring today. You guys need to figure out what this means. They got to start asking the questions themselves. So super simple, but a lot easier to use on a computer than having physical copies of it, since we know they like to draw on things that don't belong to them. Questions about this one at all? Okay. Sources and materials. Okay, this is one of my favorite things. I came across it about 2 years ago. It's called Class Kick. So if you guys could go to this link and just hit click me, it will bring you to a screen that looks, if it wants to load, like this. When you get there, if you could just log in with your first or just first name, I don't need last names, and then just hit go. And you guys are going to be getting the student view of this. Now, up here, you're going to see my view. And I get to see every single one of you and where you're at. So if you start moving on this, I'm going to know about it. So for those of you that have sneaky students, this one is fantastic. Getting materials out for inquiry is super hard because you don't know where students are going to go with what they're exploring. So to have a wide range of materials in one place is super helpful, and one place that you can gather all of them and be like, okay, here we are. I don't have to jump between 30 different documents within a matter of 20 minutes. So on this, like I said, you can see anytime they move. So you see the name. Where the black box is where your student is at on this. Also, if it goes light, it means the student is on a different tab or in a different window. So you know if they're not even on task. Yeah, it's really exciting. So you'll be able to see that. Now, let's reload that. As you go through it, you're gonna see that it looks kind of like a slideshow where you can just click the next button and it will keep going through. Why is this not loading? Yay, technology. That's okay, I can do it without looking at it. So, as you go through, it's going to be just like a slideshow that you keep clicking through at the top there. One of the great features that I found about this is because you're going to be on the computer checking their work a lot, you're not always going to be looking up if they have questions. In the upper right-hand corner of your screen, you're going to see a little hand. They can click that hand, and that's them raising their hand, and it lets you know on your computer that they're doing this. Is the hand there? Okay, perfect. But as soon as you click that hand, it lets me know that you need help. Okay, I'm going to take 1 second. Go ahead and explore, guys. I'm going to get mine back up and going. Okay, I'm going to pull you guys back in so I can keep going so I can get to everything. But like I said, with your hand, it shows in the upper right-hand corner exactly who needs help and where they need help on. And as soon as you are good, you can clear it out. If you have a specific task for them and you want them to check it, they can turn their hand green, saying, hey, I don't need help, I just need you to check this over, and you can clear that out as well. Now, you can also, I don't know why this isn't working today, but you can also jump onto there, so as soon as you want to, if you see that they're on the box 4 or 6 and you want to check what they did on 4, you can click on that and you can make comments on it at any time. So you can jump on, type in a comment, or they allow you to make stickers so you're not typing the same thing constantly. I know I always have to write, can you add more detail to this? Rather than typing that a ton of times, I just make a little sticker, stick it on, and they know before they can exit out of it, they have to look back and see if I had made any comments at any point. So there's a lot of things here, and it's a lot of things that you don't have to pay for. There is a pro version of it. I've never used it because I haven't had any need to. The only downsides that I've had with this is that every now and then when students log in, the text has shifted down a little bit so that they overlap on one another. It's a super easy fix. You can just go in really quick, move them down, give them a bigger gap, and you're good to go. But that's the only issue I've ever had with this one. Okay. Questions on that one at all? I know that's one that a lot of people probably haven't experienced before. Okay. Another big tool that I use for getting documents out to students is Newsela. Especially in middle school, our reading levels are all over the place that having a student at a 3rd grade reading level, but also at a 10th grade reading level, can be really difficult. So being able to find articles that can apply to everyone is super hard, at least it has been for me until I found this. The great thing on Newsela is you can go type in a topic you're looking for and it's going to come up with all of these different pieces. Once you get there, it gives you a text level and a word count that can be changed. It gives you different levels that you can choose from. Let's see. So, for example, I'm currently working on Mesopotamia with my students. So if you go into here, let's see, up on the top where it says 1070, you can click any of these and it will bring the article down to a place where any student will fit. The reason I like this for inquiry-based is because it means I can get a lot more materials out to students and a variety of materials out to answering a lot of questions without me having to spend hours looking for it for them. Also, if you get students on here and you teach them, okay, here's how the different levels work, but really instill in them that you need to choose one that's right for you, they love this because they don't feel overwhelmed like, oh my gosh, I'm going to find this article that has all these big words that I'm not going to understand. It actually can be brought down to a point where they're like, oh, I understand this, and I can find resources here that I can use. So pretty straightforward, but a really great tool to have. One of my newfound favorite ways to get materials out to students for exploring is through Google Sites. It does take a little bit of time. I will admit this one I'm about to show you probably took me 4 to 5 hours to put together, but that's just because I'm a perfectionist and I needed it just the way I wanted it, especially since it was for a sub-plan. But since 9/11 just passed, I wanted my students to really have a chance to explore this topic because, as you guys know, most of the students we now have either were super small when it happened or weren't even born yet. So I created this website that was hitting on a ton of different areas. I had it where you had the act itself broken down to the 4 planes and then just an overall view with some articles there. Kept going. I had a page on statistics, on everything to do with Bush that day or around that day. Remembrance, post 9/11 war, USA, world's reaction, other attacks, pop culture, because a lot of kids like music. Great, well then let's find some music about it that you guys are gonna enjoy. I didn't limit them to tell them this is what you need to learn. I simply gave them, here's the topic, here's 9/11, and had them fill out a Google form asking, what questions do you have about this? Because some of them do actually have a lot of knowledge, and some have like none. So I had them fill out that form just so that I knew what they were going to be looking for as they moved forward that day. I never had them take notes on this. They had 2 days of exploring on this. Not one note was taken, at least not to my knowledge, nor told to by me. They did incredible with it, and I asked a couple of them about it yesterday, and they're like, we liked this because we got to just go and check these things out that we were interested in. It wasn't because you were telling us we needed to. And just giving them that choice really encourages them to ask those questions and not feel bad for asking these questions or maybe not knowing the answer to the questions they have. I then had them do a reflection piece, which I ended up sending out to the staff members in my building and their parents, just to give them that audience to share out and make their learning meaningful, which is a big part of what inquiry is. Share out your learning, share what you've done. Students had a wide range of things they could do. Some of them wrote poems. If you have a chance later, I'd recommend checking them out because I was blown away by some of these. Reflecting on some of the quotes from 9/11. There's quotes all over this website. They got to choose one. What does it mean to you? What do you think of it? Reflecting on the heroes of 9/11. Memorial designs. Some of them got really creative with this. Others, I'm like, where did this come from? Making predictions. Is world peace possible? Is the United States more vulnerable today than it was in 2001? Some of them decided to create video responses rather than typing because they felt more comfortable with it. I found choice is a great thing for inquiry because it gets them excited about it. They don't seem as lost anymore, like, oh my gosh, you're not going to just tell me everything, but I actually get to find it for myself. Now, that kind of brings me into communicating conclusions. This one can be super hard for the students we have, especially with how often they text, they are on social media, spelling is incorrect, grammar's incorrect. It gets a little rough. So one of the main pieces that I've started to use is Flipgrid. Now, this doesn't help with the writing piece at all, but it is a really good way for students to go in and record themselves giving their answers. It's super easy. You go in, you create a overall class or a page. For this one, it was the 9/11 reflections. Give the students the code. They're super self-sufficient. They didn't even need me. I'm like, how many of you guys have used Flipgrid before? I had one hand up. I think it was 13 videos by the end of this. Not one of them ever asked me for help. They just went and figured it out themselves, and they were good to go. The great thing that I found about Flipgrid videos too, yes, you can view them all here, but you can also download them if you want to put them in a format that students can go back on them later. They can also comment on them on Flipgrid itself. So just having that piece where they can interact with each other, watch each other's videos, make comments. I will tell you sometimes you have to watch the comments to see what they're saying and making sure that it's school related. But it gives them that piece to look at what each other think and not just looking at, oh, this was just my one idea, I'm done. It really brings it full circle for them. My other piece for communicating conclusions I really like is Spiral. So Spiral kind of disappointed me this year. I got back from the summer and turned a lot of their tools that you had to pay for them. But they did leave one that was free, and it's the one that I use the most. So if you guys could do me a favor and go to gospiral.ac and then just enter that code. Here's what happens. Once I hit go, I can type in the question here that I want you guys to answer, or I can just verbally ask it to you and then have you respond. So I'm just going to do a simple, quick one. What's your favorite color, or what's your favorite birthday treat? Just tell me something about you and then hit submit. As soon as you hit submit, your name lights up on here. So I know if you've responded or not. Also, by doing this, you can keep answers hidden. So if you don't want students copying off of each other based off of what they're doing, you can do that. Or if you want to turn it into a discussion at any point, you can turn on, you can turn on show answers and everyone's will pop up. There we go. And all of them will pop up. Also, if you think that a student could add more, you can send it back to them. So if you're not happy with it, so let's say whoever wrote purple here, I'm not happy with yours. I'm going to send it back to you, and it simply goes into this post is being edited. It'll show up on your screen that you're supposed to edit it, and you can go in, make changes, and then send it back. Or if I'm like, yeah, that's a really great answer, I can give you a little check mark. I also can make certain responses bigger if I want to focus in on one. This can be great for a couple reasons. One, if you want to just have a class discussion, it's fantastic. Also, if you want to do a fishbowl activity and you want the outer circle doing something, because I know mine likes to draw or make faces at each other if they're in the outer circle. I've had it where they've logged onto this and I've just kept the answers hidden, and they can just make comments of what they're hearing in the inner circle. And then at a certain point, I'll be like, okay, submit what you have. Typically about the time the center group is calming down, I'll have the outer group hit submit, and I will open it up so that we can see what they're thinking, and it'll open it up for a full class discussion to talk about, okay, the center group made these points, now what does everyone else think about these? And it really drags them in and keeps them a little bit more engaged because, one, they know I'm keeping track if they're doing something, and two, they have something physically to do rather than just sit and listen, where they can zone off and do whatever they need to. Yeah?
Can you require, like with this, with your outer inner circles, can you require that each student do like 3 comments or something like that?
You can. The only downside is you can only do it one, or you can only submit one at a time, or you can only submit once. So if you want to have them do like one comment and just number them, you can do it that way. Unfortunately, you can't do it where they submit multiple. Also, if you do want to ask multiple questions, you can add in questions. So I could hit add question and do the next question, and as soon as it's typed, hit go again. So you can make it a multiple question platform if you want to just keep going rather than reloading it for every single question you have. Anything else for Spiral? Okay.
The kids, I used it quite a bit last year, and the kids, when they commented,
Yeah.
there was, I teach high school, there's those comments.
Yep.
But they started nailing each other on those comments, telling them to stop some things and do this stuff. So they're starting to monitor themselves.
Yeah, they realize that it is actually like a good tool rather than just them writing something that no one's ever going to look at. Okay. So this brings me back to my insane map of my mind. Most of these I've hit on. If you see anything on here I didn't talk about, please let me know. Email me, tweet me. Let me know if you want information on it, or if you want a specific lesson, to see a specific lesson I've done on any of these, please let me know. I will go through my insane Google Drive to find them and send them to you. It may take me a little bit of time, but no more than a day or two. Okay? Do you guys have questions on any of this? Yeah.
Then do you make a different site for like a lot of different topics that they just go and investigate, and how much time do you do?
So my 9/11 one, it took me about 4 hours to do, but then it was a 3-day long activity. So it kind of balanced out a little bit. I have done it in the past that I've had a site for an entire unit and just keep adding to it that way rather than building a new one every single time. And that seems to work pretty well too. Okay. That's what I got, guys. Let me know if you have anything.